Hey, Heneka, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Aimee. It's a pleasure to be here.
So for everyone listening or watching this YouTube episode, where are you?
I'm in Jamaica. Beautiful, beautiful Jamaica. Woo!
Jamaica's
Doesn't
on
get
my
better
bucket
than that.
list.
Yeah, it don't get better than that.
It's on my bucket list. I want to come, and then I'm definitely going to have to come see you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
It's a done deal. We just need the pandemic to end. But
It
we'll
is
get
exactly. But yeah.
Heneka, how long have you been podcasting?
I think 4 years now, since 2017. Yeah, 4 years now, actually, and a couple months to boot.
and you've written a book. Why don't you tell these guys a little bit about the book you wrote?
Oh, wow. Okay, so I thought that once I was into podcasting and I went all in because I first started with the radio show and then I decided, yeah, podcasting is going to be, I decided, I was so excited about the thing, teaching it, doing workshop and courses and all of these things. I decided, hey, in order to kind of put the icing on the cake of being an authority in the local space here, the Jamaican podcast queen, as it were, I thought it was necessary for me to do the book. And I did it because I really wanted an easy way to show people how to podcast. Kind of like, I know it doesn't encapsulate everything, but it's, I believe, everything that a beginner ought to know, plus some, right?
Yeah.
So that was the reason I decided to do it. And writing it for me it wasn't a challenging, thing to do because most of my content I had before. So I had most of my content in the form of a blog post or presentations that I would have done prior to writing the book. And all I did was transcribe some audio thing and repurpose the blog post and things like that. And voila, I had a book.
And because of, guys, it's a great book. We'll put the link in the description.
Oh, yes. I know you got it. Yeah, I know you got it.
I got it. So you guys can check that book out because if you're just starting podcasting, it's a great resource as well. And the way Heneka wrote it in her relatability is one of the reasons I wanted her on the show. And the other reason is she has had some amazing guests on her show. Amazing guests on her show. I think the latest one I saw was Les Brown.
Yes, correct.
The Les Brown was just on your show. Can you get who are some of the other amazing authorities you've had on your show?
All right. So first of all, let me preface that by saying that every single person that has been on my show is of value, quality, and they're worth their grain of salt, right? It's just that some of them are more known than others in terms of on a global scale. So I've had guests like Lisa Nichols, Seth Godin, John Lee Dumas, Richard Branson, Les Brown, as you mentioned, and a couple of others, Paul Carrick Brunson, and a couple of others.
These are guests. These are guests that some people are just wishing. They're on a wish list to be on their show or just have a conversation with. Right? Mm-hmm. And here you are having these conversations like it's nothing. Like amazing interviews, guys. Also, by the way, check those out. But I wanted to ask you, because I think oftentimes when people go into podcasting, they think certain people are just unattainable. And I think you have proven that that's not necessarily the case. It may take work, it may take time, but what is it? Who was your first one that you would say is kind of a non-easy to get authority?
All right, so here's the thing. What I did was I pretty much had a strategy, although I didn't realize it was a strategy at first, right? Mm-hmm. So when I recognized I fell in love with podcasting after somebody introduced it to me, prior to that, I may have listened to a podcast once or twice. That was in 2017 or 16 rather. Somebody introduced, and by 2017, I was podcasting. I fell head over heels in love with John Lee Dumas and what he was doing and how transparent he was. And I really began to engage with him, really not wanting anything in return. I was genuinely engaging because I love this content, love what he was doing. And he would, respond to me and engage with me as well. And so when I started, he became a very low-hanging fruit for me in the sense that, we already formed a connection that was there. Interestingly, he was my first guest, but that was not supposed to be the case because I actually interviewed somebody else who, long story, it never worked out. And in retrospect, I'm so happy that that interview was misplaced. My computer crashed and all of that thing. But so when I reached out to JLD, which of course we know is a creme de la creme of podcasting, and he came on the show, which gave me some form of a social proof, and being the authority, I was able to reach out to other people of a similar caliber and say, hey, I've had John Lee Dumas on the show. I'm launching this new show and I'd love for you to be on. And here's what I can offer you. Here's what I've been doing all my life. Because remember, I didn't really have much to start with. I'm just starting a podcast. So when you have nothing, what do you do? What do you start with? Well, you start with what's in your hand. And what's in my hand at the time, what was in my hand? Well, yes, the engagement with JLD, but also the fact that I've been an entrepreneur prior to that since 2007, which means that I would have garnered some experience and exposure media-wise and stuff. So I was able to use those to say, this is who I am, because you don't know me, right? So I had to present myself. This is who I am. This is what I'm about. This is what I'm building. Would you be a part of it? And so it became easier. And every quote-unquote celebrity that I've had on the show, it has been a different strategy. It's not a one-size-fits-all in every instance. For example, when I had Seth was different. Seth was just me searching online, finding his contact details and just reaching out by showing how I could add value. There are different strokes for different folks. When I had Richard Branson on, for example, he came on as a result of being in Jamaica when he was reopening, because we have the Branson Center of Entrepreneurship Caribbean. So when the center was being relaunched, because they were relocating from the second city of Montego Bay into our capital city, Kingston, I reached out, being a member or a recipient, whatever you call it, of the Branson Center. I was able to say, hey, I have this podcast and you know what I'm about, you know who I'm interviewing and stuff like that. I would love to speak with Richard. And it was done. So each guest has been a different strategy. Seth Godin, the second time around, it was because he's been on the show twice. Seth Godin, for example, was really about, okay, what is he doing right now that I can add value to? So I recognized that he was launching his recent book, The Practice. And I decided, okay, I'm going to be celebrating my 200th episode. Why not, reach out, showing him that, okay, you have this book. I'd love to promote it on my 200th episode. And he said, yes, it was a no-brainer. I mean, when they're going to, because people are going to look on, you're reaching out to a guest, they're going to search, Google you to see what's going on with you. What are you about? So it's not just about sending a message. It's about who are you and what kind of digital footprint do you have? So once you send that message, they will see that, this is somebody who is serious about what they do. And so we'll give you the time of day.
I think oftentimes, especially for new podcasters, they think it's the unattainable, though. And that's the thing is, when we met, you are a force upon yourself, a kind and affable, just like, who wouldn't want to talk to you? And I think oftentimes people think, here's the thing, you are all those things, plus you have, you don't hold back. You went after it. You go after things. And I think, would you say that's fair to say that that's what kind of separates you out from other people who are doing stuff?
Absolutely, because I do not go. I think many people, they go from the standpoint of, oh my gosh, the impostor syndrome. Who am I to be talking with Richard Branson? Who am I to be talking with Les Brown? Who am I to be talking with Seth Godin? Actually, who are you not to be talking to these person? Hello. And so you go with that openness of recognizing that there is a level playing field, and the internet has done that to show us that there's a level playing field. You have access to the internet, you have access to everyone, presidents, prime ministers, whomever we hold in high regard. And the thing is, we all struggle with some confidence and self-esteem and all these things and these issues. But once we get to the point of recognizing our worth and our value, then it becomes easier, because a lot of it lies in the fact that they're going to think they're going to turn me down because I'm not worth it. Essentially, that's what you're saying. Like, I'm not worth it. but I'm worth it. I know if you don't want to talk to me, that's fine for whatever reason. But I'm not going to say it's because, I don't have a million following. I mean, used to my social media, I don't have a lot of following. And I really don't care about that right now. I was just looking the other day, just recently, and I'm saying, okay, here I am right now producing 3 business podcasts. I'm doing the Entrepreneurial You for myself. I'm doing the Jamaica Stock Exchange and You for the Jamaica Stock Exchange. And just recently, Your Business Matters for Exim Bank. And I'm thinking, wow, I'm doing all these 3 podcasts, right? And I'm connecting with people and stuff. I'm not going to think that, who am I to be doing all of this? The internet is such a great equalizer, and we ought to use it and just affirm ourselves, because that is key. Knowing who you are, knowing your worth, knowing your value, and knowing that not because you don't have all these many following or whatever it is that you want to, people use to affirm you or not, it doesn't make it's not important. What is important is what you think about yourself and your possibility and your value and your worth.
And guys, I want to make one thing clear. Heneka had the confidence to do and approach these individuals, and she made it clear in the beginning when I had asked, right, who are some of the high names that she had said. She said, listen, they're all value adds. They're all value. And that's I think huge. She doesn't make one person feel less or more than someone else. Each guest is valued. How you treat your guest is so important, because you can hear it in the conversations. You can feel it in the videos you see. And I just want to make sure that's clear, that you understand that, because she said it. She said it as soon as I asked that question. And I hope that wasn't lost on anyone, because that is so important. And it's that humility that she has in talking about people that makes them them. So, Heneka, do you think that makes a difference in the conversations you have?
I do. I do think it makes a difference, because at the end of the day, we all want is for other people to acknowledge us, to see us. We all want that, And I think that once we get to that point, we are able to touch the core of humanity, because I think that ultimately that's what podcasting is about, touching that core, that relatability, that human factor. And just accepting people for who they are, accepting that, people are people, and we all we feel the same things. We are hurt. When we get hurt, we feel the same emotions. When we experience joy, we have the same emotions, and so on and so forth. So it's very important for me. And I must tell you too, Aimee, that I have not seen a jump in terms of my numbers, my download numbers, by virtue of a big name guest, for example. Right? I use that. I leverage that as a strategy for and particularly in the landscape that I operate in Jamaica, where we are we're a classist society. And I say this all the time, and some people don't like it, but it is what it is. We're very classist. We're very it's what you do kind of a thing. We judge people based on what they do and not necessarily who they are. And so for me, that was also important because you're operating in a space and you're capable, and sometimes you get overlooked because you're not of a particular skin hue, or you're not from a particular segment of society. So you get overlooked, notwithstanding the fact that you are quite capable and everything. And so for me, I think too, it was a point in saying, hey, I can do this. You know what I mean? And I don't need you to affirm me. I can go wherever I want to go, and I can connect with whomever I want to connect wherever in this world, because the internet, again, is a great equalizer, leveling the playing field for everybody. And so podcasting is doing that even more.
And guys, the second thing I want to point out that Heneka does right, that you need to be sure of, she comes correct, right? Don't go requesting things from these individuals, your guests, whatever the level or prestige they may have. Don't go expecting that they owe you to be on the show. I'm pretty sure Seth Godin wouldn't have come back onto her show if she hadn't had a good experience and if she hadn't asked politely, right? I mean, Heneka, have you worked with other podcasters?
In terms of hosting?
Helping them put podcasts together?
Well,
outside of your book?
No, well, outside of the book, what I do coaching, one-on-one coaching, and I also do workshops. So in that regard, yes, I work and I love to see other people just launching out their podcasts and, doing amazing and things. Because as I said earlier, Aimee, that when I started podcasting, I was just sold. I was excited about it. And I am still passionate about it. I find them trending now towards producing for corporate companies, which is like you're graduating and stuff, because you're going where more dollars are, right? You're trying to earn, so you do that. But I also really do love the coaching, because I love to see people just get awestruck, because when I tell them about what a podcast can do and what it has been doing for me, yeah, I get really excited and passionate about it.
As you're working with these students, right, and they're coming to you essentially with this hope and dream that this can happen, what are some common mistakes that you see them making that we could try and help people who are watching this episode avoid?
Okay, so I think one of the things, and most of it, again, I'm going to refer back to the mind, because a lot of times they come with the idea that, okay, one, their voice isn't good enough, doesn't sound well enough, like they're constantly very insecure about their voice. That's one. And the second thing is, what was the second thing? Oh my God, I lost my chain of thought. But yeah, so they come not thinking that they're not able to. Oh, I know the second one. Sorry. The second one is that they don't have anything to podcast about. I'm like, if you have any passion about anything at all, if you love to talk about anything at all, there's a podcast for everything. Just like there's an app for that, there's a podcast for everything. So that's what I want to get first with the mindset. And once we go through the activities for them to eliminate, because after a while they move from not having anything to talk about to having so much to talk about that they don't know where to start. So we get to the process of, that process of elimination, where we eliminate, the things and stick to the ones that you're either most passionate or skilled in. And so that's where we start. So for me, it's about addressing the mental issue. The common mistakes, however, is that, another common mistake rather, is that they're going to see downloads just going like that. Like, they're going to have 100,000 downloads immediately. I'm like, no, it takes time. It takes nurturing. And if you're not willing to be consistent, if you're not willing to put in the work, then you're not going to see the fruit of your labor. I constantly get to see the podcasts and the ones that I'm now producing. When I check charting at the very top, right? And the truth is, I don't completely know what it is that goes into making sure that your podcast is at the top. But one thing I do know is that your consistency and, consistently creating content and updating your work really does help. So it's very important that people, podcasters, potential podcasters, put in the work that is necessary. That includes researching your guests. That includes putting in the work and see, what topic are people talking about or wanting to talk about, that kind of a thing. So do the research. And also importantly, you alluded to the whole idea of interacting with guests. You must let your guests feel, in that very moment that, they're important to you. Right? It's not about, hey, it's my show and, you come onto my show. No, people are giving up their time, right? They could, when you think about the opportunity cost, they could be doing anything else. But here they are giving you a 30 minutes, a hour, 1 hour, whatever the case may be. And so value that and respect that. And respect what your audience, engage with your audience. Don't be too big that you post something, somebody engages with you, but you don't even dignify it with a like or a comment or, something. Just be approachable.
Would you say that a common denominator across podcast listening, podcast producing, podcast hosting, podcast everything, frankly, is relationships? Yeah.
Relationship is everything. And when I learned that, initially when I just started business, because I never had the experience and anybody in my family doing business and stuff. So you keep hearing that business is about the bottom line, and which it really is. But I read that to mean it's all about the money and stuff, And as you grow, you realize it's all about relationship, right? People do business with people that they like, that they know, and that they trust. And so it's all about building that relationship. And it doesn't mean that you have to every day be in constant contact, right? But what it means is that every time that you are in contact, that you are respectful, that you are delightful, that you're not coming off as aloof and all of that, that you're engaging with other people.
I think sometimes we forget that, right? I mean, I think people come in, start podcasting, and they think there's a built-in audience. There's a built-in expectation. It's automatic, right? They hear about, and I guys, I apologize. I know I've said this before, but it's true. And I just want Heneka's thought on this. But I think sometimes people see the Joe Rogans, Michelle Obama, all the NPR produced, professionally done podcasts. And they come and they're like, who am I? Or it's either who am I to be doing it? I'm nowhere on their level. Or it's I started and I can't get that number. And therefore I'm going to stop podcasting. They pod fade at number 5 or something like I had 5 episodes worth. That's it. Oh, well. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, do you see that also?
Yeah, I see. I mean, you know what irks me? The stats that comes out all the time about the number of podcasts that they are. It irks me because when there are, I think if it's like 60 seconds long or whatever it is, just one time, it's counted. I'm like, how could that be counted? Yeah? You know what I mean? Like somebody just decided to put something up to do a test and it's counted in that number. So my question is, how real are those thoughts that are posited there? So people are going in with the wrong expectation. Podcasters are sometimes going in with the wrong expectations. They don't recognize because they probably hear, it's the next best thing, because a lot of us purport it to be the next best thing, right? And because it's the next best thing, the biggest thing ever, that we just go into it with that expectation that I'm going to start today and by tomorrow I'm going to have the following that I want. I'm going to start monetizing and earning the way I want and stuff. But like everything in business, an overnight success is usually 10 years in the making, right? Which means intrinsic in that is that longevity. You have to stay the course. You have to be committed. It can't be something that you get up. Because for me, and maybe a lot of us creatives are like that. There is something that you like to do today and you're excited about it because you have this idea and you start it, and 3 months down the road, like you don't even want to look at it, For me, I remember when I started the Entrepreneurial You, Aimee, I had so many episodes because that's always been my practice to can batch my work and have a lot of episodes in the back. So when I started, I think when I started launching in March, I had enough episodes, and maybe this is wrong because people do the episodes and they're like, oh my gosh, it hasn't aired yet. So I had so many episodes that could take me up to perhaps June the following year. And I got so excited. I wanted to release instead of once weekly, twice weekly. And luckily what I did was to reach out to some audience, my audience members, and I asked, would you prefer me to do this weekly or twice per week? And thankfully they had the sense to tell me do it once weekly, right? Because I know if they had said do it twice weekly, by now I perhaps would have participated because I don't want to do 2 times per week right now. I wouldn't want to do that, no.
It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. The last thing I wanted to talk about, Heneka, is I think sometimes people don't realize the impact podcasting can have, not just on their audience, but on you, the podcaster. And I know podcasting has changed my life and, made me have connections and meet podcasters like yourself from around the world, and it has just been phenomenal. What, if at all, has podcasting done for you that you would say changed your life? Aside from, you know what? I'm not going to say aside. Go ahead.
You didn't even need to dignify or quantify your argument by if at all, because by all means, yes, it has.
I didn't want to assume.
Right? Oh my my gosh, like Aimee, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I honestly don't know where to begin. Podcasting for me has been life changing. So here's the thing. I've always wanted to do media. Always wanted to do media. I remember applying to my university to do mass communications. Of course, they rejected that application. But somehow, because it was in me, I ended up doing the Entrepreneurial You, starting on radio. And then I turned it into a podcast. I began hosting, things on other radio stations and stuff. So I got to media. And this is new media. This is media. And to see the impact, because I don't believe that if I had stayed in traditional media, that I would have been able to create this impact at the time when I started. I mean, perhaps no, when the digital divide is a little less, the gap is a little less, and the landscape is easier. But for me, it has been like life changing. Meeting people, as you alluded to some of those names that ordinarily I wouldn't have had the opportunity to speak to some of these people at all, like never in my wildest imagination. I mean, when you think about podcasting opening doors for me to host even the biggest leadership event globally, which is Leadercast, right? When I was able to reach out to them at Leadercast and say, hey, this is what I'm doing with the Entrepreneurial You, and that opened a door for me, right? It is opening doors for me now in terms of my income, my salary, my revenue comes salary, like I'm employed somebody, but my revenue comes in from podcasting, whether through advertising, the producing the course, whatever it is. That's where most of my income comes from, right? When you think about the off things that a podcast can do. So for example, my phone was stolen in 2019 and I was in my car, my phone stolen, somebody took it out of my hand and stuff. And I was able to, long story short, go to cybercrime, right? The cybercrime division, for them to trace my phone. The person that I spoke with, where did I meet him? I meet him because I was at an event where I, via the Entrepreneurial You podcast, got a press pass for this event, covered the event. And so I was able to meet this person at cybercrime. And I was able to get back my phone because he put up, did all the work and stuff, and I got back my phone. So when you think about the craziest of things, like, the community that is built, the friendship, Aimee, we met at our podcast movement. Yeah. And I have just even though we don't talk a lot, one of the things I admire about you is you talk about, my kindness and stuff. You are super kind, and I'm really happy to be connected to you, and podcasting has done that for us, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. There's just so much.
There is. And I think, and so guys, I knew she was going to say that, right? Never ask a question you don't know the answer to. But I knew she was going to say that because podcasting I have yet to meet a podcaster who's a true podcaster, meaning they haven't pod faded, who hasn't said podcasting has impacted them. I've yet to meet anybody for that. And if there is somebody, I'm curious. I'd like to meet you, honestly. I don't know how that happens, but it truly is. But it's like Heneka said, it takes time and it takes work for it. But it can do some magic things. But it's different for everyone. That's the thing. And I need to go back and say that because I think some of y'all hear Heneka's Cinderella magic story and the amazing things she has done and is to come. And you think, again, I'm going to do it because I think I want that story. I want that to happen to me. Your magic is different. Your magic is different. What will happen for you is going to be different. Heneka's is Heneka's. That's hers. Let it be. You do you, right? So Heneka, before I let you go, what is one thing these guys can do as new podcasters, aspiring podcasters? What can they do to put their best foot forward in their podcast?
Again, I like to talk about starting with the mind. It all begins in the mind. And you have to understand what your goal is. What is your why, really? What are you working towards? And why are you doing what you're doing? Understanding your why, I think, is most critical because I'll tell you, there are going to be times when you don't feel like doing it. Like, if you're in business, you already know that. There are times you just get up and you don't feel like doing anything. But when you have a strong why, when the tough gets going, your why will keep you anchored and grounded. And so, as with anything at all in your life, evaluate why. What's your purpose? What's your mission? What do you want to accomplish? And why do you want to accomplish it? Because that is going to be what keeps you grounded and keeps you going in the midst of everything. So understand that, but also it's important to understand your audience, understand who it is that you're speaking to and speaking with, and who it is, what value do you want to add to them. An understanding of that, knowing your avatar. Let's talk about your avatar. Knowing your avatar, knowing that perfect audience member, that perfect listener. What is it that keeps them up at night? What it is that, makes them tick and makes them smile, that kind of a thing. Know them and know your why. And once you do that, forget about the noise, because it's so easy to get distracted. It is so easy to look on, see what everybody else is doing. Don't look at my success or lack thereof, whatever it is, and say, that's what I'm going to do, or so on. No, find it for yourself. Find out why you're doing it, and let it be yours, not anybody else's.
Let it be yours. That's, guys, you hear her? You hear her? It's true. Be sure to check out everything Heneka is doing. We're going to put it in the description, or if you're listening to this, in the show notes. Be sure to check her out, because she's doing amazing things and she's an amazing resource and support. Heneka, thank you so much for coming on and just sharing your experience as a podcaster.
Thank you, Aimee. It has been my pleasure, and I wish you all the best on your onward journey, on your interesting podcasting journey, and everything that you're doing. Success is yours.